Hello and welcome to Long Beach Lens. I'm your host, Derek J. Simpson, Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. We've invited both candidates running for City Council District 7 to speak with us for this episode of Long Beach Lens. One candidate was available to share their platform. Please join me in welcoming Jared Milrad. How are you, sir?
Good to be here, Derek. Thanks
Good.
for having me.
Yeah, though we had hoped to have both candidates, there were scheduling conflicts, as I mentioned, and so here you are. And so in the few moments that we have, I just want to sort of reintroduce you, because many know you, clearly. Over 1,900 knew you, well enough to vote for you. And then ask you some critical questions. And when I looked at the results of the election, and I saw that 47%, or 2,797 voted for Councilman Uranga. 1,904, or 32%, voted for you. That left 52% collectively that didn't vote for the incumbent. And I would ask both of you, what do you think the message is from the community when you see those numbers?
Sure. It's a great question, Derek. I think the message is clearly a message of change. We need change in District 7. That's why, as you said, a majority of our district voted for change and for new leadership on April 10th. And I'm confident, frankly, they'll do it again on June 5th. We have neglected infrastructure throughout our district. We have a lack of small businesses throughout our district. We have one of the most polluted districts and regions in the entire country, frankly, that we live in. And so I think it's time for new leadership. That's why I decided to run for the first time in my life for public office, in part, not only because I love Long Beach and I love our community, but because I know we can do better. And I think that was the clear message when a clear majority of voters voted for change in April.
In your answer, you just said you're confident. What makes you so confident that if it exists as it does, it didn't just happen overnight, what makes you so confident that you are the person to make that change?
Sure. I mean, look, we've spent now months and months listening to thousands of our neighbors. And the one resounding message that's been clear is that we need someone with a fresh perspective. Okay. We need someone who hasn't been, frankly, a career politician for their lives, someone who has started a small business like I have in our community, someone who's founded a nonprofit organization, someone who's worked on grassroots campaigns like I did for President Barack Obama in 2008 and 12, someone who has diverse leadership experience and a lifetime of diverse leadership experience, and also someone who has a detailed platform, unlike my opponent, on the issues. And that's something that we've developed over these past many months on homelessness, on small business growth, on the environment, infrastructure, housing, on just about every single issue that folks have raised. We've responded and laid out a clear vision for the future, and I think we deserve that and expect that of candidates who run for office.
When you think about challenges and opportunities, you've just mentioned a menu of things, but what are some of the priorities that you feel are the greatest challenges and therefore the greatest opportunities in the district?
I think we deserve a proactive, engaged leader, Derek, someone who will be engaged and involved in our community, unlike what we have right now. Frankly, we do have the second most absentee council member right now. Mr. Uranga has missed 260 votes in the city council. I think that's unacceptable. We pay taxes. We expect someone to show up for work. If any one of us missed work 260 times at our jobs, we wouldn't be hired again for 4 more years. So we need someone who's engaged, who's listening, who's involved in the community, who's present, and who shows up. That's number one. Number two is really addressing the host of issues that I just raised. So on infrastructure, we see neglect on our sidewalks, our trees, our roads, in our parks that aren't well maintained. That's something I want to change and work to change if elected on June 5th. We also need someone who's a champion and a proven advocate for our environment. Mr. Uranga now has taken more than $4,000 from oil companies and executives. I've taken $0 because I believe we should have someone who actually represents our community, not big corporations. Mr. Uranga has voted against the environment many times in the California Coastal Commission and against energy efficiency. Those are things I'd like to see us support because our community is one of the most polluted in the country. And lastly, but importantly, Mr. Uranga said he wants to widen the 710 freeway. He's on the record saying this, and that will displace at least 400 to 500 people, plus increase traffic and pollution. That's just not my own word. That's coming from the research that's been done by LA County. So we need someone who's a champion, who will get healthier food options, open space, natural barriers along the 710, zero-emission trucks on that freeway, a dedicated truck lane, and so much more that we can do to make sure that our kids and families breathe fresh air and have an environment that, frankly, does right by them. And we need a leader to actually stand up and fight for them. And that's what I'll do.
For anyone that may doubt that those are some very challenging goals and yet very attainable for those who are focused. But what makes your leadership effective, Jared, when you think about all of this and what you'll be facing?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, nothing happens overnight, and we know that. And it will take engagement, it will take leadership, but our community is calling out for it. You know, there's a diverse chorus of voices now who are calling for change, who are part of our grassroots campaign in every corner of our district. And the reason for that is because we want to believe again in the power of our people and the potential of our democracy and our politics. Let's put public service back into politics. And yes, it will be a challenge in many ways to get everything done. But you know what? We should strive for something. We should have aspirations in public service. And I want to bring servant leadership back into politics, and that's why I'm running. And we will make progress for our community, because we're going to have someone who's listening and who's engaged and who's proactive on setting forth an agenda that reflects our diverse district.
Now you're the candidate in the 7th district, but there are 9 districts, which means that you're going to have to be a leader among leaders. When you think about that, how would you go about serving not only the 7th district, but the greater good of Long Beach? Because there's going to be some give and take there, I would imagine.
Absolutely. We need a leader who will serve the entire city and, you know, fundamentally make sure that our taxes go as far as they should. You know, in District 7, we pay taxes too, yet we see neglect in every corner of our district. So we need a leader who will represent our city. That's why I make sure that City Hall works for us on everything, including infrastructure across the city, including the environment, including homelessness, small business growth, crime, which is actually up. Aggravated assault is up more than 58%. Violent crime is up more than 25%, as is petty theft. So we need someone who's going to actually represent the whole city, and I think it is time for a new generation of leadership to bring the change we need, not only in City Hall, but in a place like District 7, which has been neglected and frankly isn't being served or represented fully in City Hall.
Now you started out talking about working with President Barack Obama, which is, you know, a very esteemed role, and you've talked about grassroots campaign and getting out and shaking hands with people, and you know, we've had photos of those as well. But when you think about the low income, right, which is what we think about here at Long Beach Cap, because that's who we serve, and the concerns about livable wage jobs and affordable housing, what will you do to address those things? Because it will take great leadership, it will take community engagement, and those aren't always nice, you know, things that people want to focus on. There could be some challenges, whether it be from unions on one side to activists on the other, or your colleagues, but to us, those problems don't go away. Where will your leadership fall with that?
Such a great question. And look, I'm someone who was raised by a single mother, who was educated in public schools, someone who spent a lifetime in service to others. You know, I founded a nonprofit to help families afford legal services. I currently work for a nonprofit, working on getting healthier foods in our schools for our kids. You know, advocating to empower at-risk youth is something I've done. You know, working on a variety of social issues from civil rights to human rights to animal welfare and environmental protection, and working for President Barack Obama twice. That's the kind of diverse leadership experience our district needs, someone who actually is committed to folks who are left out, who are vulnerable. And that includes fighting for things like paid family leave protections, for affordable childcare, for a livable wage in our city, for growing small businesses. As a small business owner, that's something I know how to do and will fight for and champion, because 76% of our residents don't work in our city. Right. So that's something that needs to change. We need to empower and support young people. You know, unlike my opponent who did cut 11 vocational programs at the city college, that's just not something I say, it's true. We've met neighbors who are affected by those cuts and have their careers cut short because of his decision to do that at the city college. That's something I want to reverse, and that's why we've started a fellowship program even in our campaign, and now have young leaders from CSU Long Beach to, you know, senior at Millikan High School getting involved in our campaign for the first time.
Recently, I read in the paper about the Everyone Home Task Force, because homelessness is a big issue in Long Beach, but it's frankly big all over this county. What will you do to support such an initiative? In the few minutes that we have left, succinctly tell us what's your focus there.
Absolutely, and our homelessness is up in our community. When we see it in District 7, 8, and 9, homelessness has been trending upward because of, in part, from displacement downtown, and that's what happens when you have the second most absentee council member. So what I want to do is do things that work, like permanent supportive housing. We know that that works. We have an example at it on the west side of the Century Villages. I want to expand that type of work, make sure that we have trained advocates go out into the community, build those relationships with folks who are chronically homeless, bring them into supportive housing, and make sure that they then can get the services they need, from substance abuse treatment to life skills training to so much more. That has worked in other cities and states around the country, so let's do it. It also saves taxpayers money, and it improves public health and public safety. That's the kind of proactive, engaged leadership that I will bring to the City Council if elected on June 5th.
Jerry, you're an entrepreneur and a businessman, and you and I both know that there's no substitute for experience. What do you say to the people watching who say you don't have that experience, your opponent does have that experience? Where does the line draw there?
Absolutely. So my opponent has experience not showing up for work 260 times and not being engaged in our community. He doesn't have experience like I do. You know, I'm the only candidate in this race who has experience starting a small business. I'm the only candidate who has experience starting a nonprofit. I'm the only candidate who has experience working on grassroots campaigns, marching and advocating for healthcare reform, for human rights, for civil rights, earning a law degree from a public interest law school, you know, doing all the things that I've done over the years, including empowering at-risk youth in our community, living and working in our district. That's something my opponent doesn't have, and frankly, I think that's why he's not here, because he's been absent from our community. So I will bring that engaged leadership to the City Council. And you know what? Frankly, I'm sick and tired of young people being told they don't have the right experience, because I do, and a lot of young people in our community do. And we need someone who has new leadership who will bring that to City Hall, and who is not a career politician, but instead is a community advocate, and who is engaged and listening and focused on the future of our district and our city.
Well said. We have 1 minute. In that 1 minute, share your vision and your closing thoughts for what you will do as a leader if you were to be elected in the 7th.
Well, thank you again for having me. I mean, look, this election comes down to a simple choice between change or the status quo, between someone who has failed to serve our community, who has been absent from our community, and someone who has been engaged and listening and proactive on setting forth a clear agenda that reflects the needs and the values of our district. That is the type of leadership I am ready to bring if elected on June 5th, and it is time for a new generation of leadership to serve. You know, a lot of folks counted us out before the votes were even counted. We've seen outside special interests pour in tens and tens of thousands of dollars to help the status quo win, but it will not work, not in our community, because we know that we deserve better. We deserve a repaired infrastructure. We deserve a healthy environment for our kids. We deserve small business growth throughout our community, and I will bring that leadership if elected on June 5, and I'm ready to serve the people of District 7 and of Long Beach.
Thank you. Thank you for your desire to serve and for all that you do in the community, and we wish you the best. However the cards fall, we know that you're giving your best, and so we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Jared Milrad for joining us on today's show. Be sure to follow PatNet TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest updates. We also welcome your comments and thoughts regarding this show as we strive to make Long Beach Lands a favorite source of local news, information, and entertainment. This show has been brought to you with support from the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Thank you for watching Long Beach Lands, and remember to vote on June 5th.